the return of Game Gone Wrong. I know any of you guys who were like following along with us when this project first started may have thought that we were all over and done with after we finished what the project was really about, which of course is anybody who watched as we went through, well, you guys, this is before we did all the video stuff. So if you listened along with what we were doing, you notice that the general concept behind Game Gone Wrong was that I had never seen the last season of Game of Thrones. So Tunney had this great idea like about a year or so ago, said, hey, why don't we run a podcast about this? And, we know it's happening. You're going to watch it for the first time. And, we can all discuss whether the last season was the abject failure that so many people think it was. And we did all that. We went through it. It was a 7-part miniseries. I know there's only 6 episodes, but the first episode was us recapping everything that had happened in the first 7 seasons. And I think at the end of the day, we said, that wasn't nearly as bad as people made it out to sound. I mean, there's a couple of episodes that are questionable, but at the end of the day, I thought 2 of the episodes in that season were some of the best in the entire series. So when we were done with it, I know we had talked off air, it wasn't anything that we said about, to anybody. It was, hey, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is coming pretty soon. And House of the Dragon is going to be coming back in 2026. So we decided a while ago that we were going to bring the show back, although we did toy around with the idea about changing the title. And ultimately, I just do whatever Tony tells me to do. He says, I think you should keep the name the same. And I said, you know what? You're fucking right. You're brilliant. And so here we are, Game Gone Wrong, because no one knows whether A Night of the Seven Kingdoms will go off the rails at some point in time. What we are going to do here today, tonight, wherever you are, is we're going to recap the very first episode of the brand new series, spinoff series of Game of Thrones called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And the first episode is called The Hedge Knight. But before we get into any of that, I'm thrilled to welcome back into the show my the two guys who were there with me through all of the original run of Game Gone Wrong. First off, the man who's really the brainchild. This was mostly his idea. Like I said, I just do whatever my bestie tells me to do. And that is the one and only PC Tunney. Tunney, how are you doing? Welcome back to Game Gone Wrong. We're going to find out if this one goes wrong, but at least we're going to be present, current, up to date, not retconning everything. How's it going, man?
Famous last words. I do whatever my bestie tells me to. That could get you into trouble there, buddy. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to start talking about this episode and this series, and I'm just excited to have more Game of Thrones world in my face.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and this series, as we will discuss, is going to be a different ride, and we're going to get into some of that as we go along. I'm also welcoming back into this show. With his look on today. Yeah, you're right, Tunney. He's got the greatest beard in all of podcasting. We all know that. But today he is DJ Buffwell. Deej, how the hell are you doing, man? You are looking svelte. I mean, I've seen the 6-pack on your profile picture, but to see it in all of its glory right now, live and in living color, I gotta say, man, I feel pretty inferior.
To be fair, I mostly have a shirt on for those of you that are just listening, so it's not full topless here. No, I'm good tonight, man.
It's not a full frontal.
That's not a full frontal. Barely made it here by the skin of my teeth. And the guys always like to start earlier, and I'm like, guys, the earliest I can ever be on here is 7:00 because I don't get out of work till 5. I need to eat, come home, work out, shower, get on here. And then tonight I hit an accident, so like I was hoofing it trying to get in here and I think I made it like 7:05. But I'm ready to go. The Game of Thrones universe is expanding. I'm excited for it, and I'm really, really excited to talk about episode 1 of Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Awesome. So yeah, we are going to get into it, talking about this first episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms called The Hedge Knight. And as somebody like, this is a weird list, kind of like almost a role reversal from the original Game Gone Wrong series, is that I've actually read these graphic novels, so I'm pretty sure I've got a good idea as to where this show is going to go. And I thought that this first episode, The Hedge Knight, really kind of followed along with how the graphic novels kind of started off. And just general thoughts about the Hedge Knight. I thought it's a really solid episode. I mean, it does have a different feel to it. And I know people have commented on this already online. We've seen people say that, this doesn't feel like Game of Thrones. And I was like, it's all right if there's no dragons. And there even was a dragon in this first episode, paper mache and, on a stage, that sort of thing. But there was a dragon. But, I think just kind of like going through this episode a little bit, looking at the big overarching story points, we get to meet Sir Duncan, right? And when this episode begins, poor Dunk he's at rock bottom pretty much, right? I mean, he's burying it's not his real dad, but somebody who took him in off the street. Arlen of Pennytree, I think is the guy's name. And Arlen has just passed away. And, Dunk is ending up, he's burying his father figure, whatever it is. And all he's really got is like Arlen's gear, his sword, his horse, and this real kind of like suspect claim that Arlen had knighted him before he died. And I think, Dunk comes to terms. You get to see some flashbacks about this guy being kind of a piece of shit to him, beating him up and slapping him around and not being the nicest father figure in the world. And Dunk taking his sword and saying, it fits my grip as well as it ever fits yours. So let me go, Deej, let me go to you first on this thing. As we get going in this series, we get the introduction of the main character. Obviously, Duncan, whatever you want to call him. He's a big fella. He's much taller than pretty much anybody else in this episode. And they play that up quite a bit during this episode as to how big he is. And, what do you think of this introduction to this character? The first time you've seen him, the first time any of us see him, I thought he really endears himself to the audience pretty quickly here.
He does. One of the things, as we talk about this entire universe, because we're going to talk about this as we go a little further on, one of the things with House of the Dragon that I almost didn't make it through the first season was it took me 3 or 4 episodes to really latch on to any character the way I did the original Game of Thrones series. I'm 1 episode in of Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and I'm already latched on to Duncan as a character. He's just that endearing, whether it's the actor, whether it's the portrayal. Just again, they play on his size and his height several times throughout the episode. He's, how do I put it, simple but not stupid. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. He's very matter of fact. There's nothing. He is not.
He's not complicated at all. At least not yet. No, I think there are layers here, but he's not complicated yet.
Right. I draw the comparison immediately to Hodor. Right, Hodor was a big dude and simple, and there was a level of, and I don't want to say stupid because that's not right, but just that simple-minded sort of approach, sort of thing, right? And Dunk's not in that category. He's as big as Hodor, but he's certainly much more, with it, cognizant, kind of up to date, up to speed as to what's going on. There's none of that. And of course he speaks more than one word, which obviously helps. So, that sort of thing. Tony, what do you think about Dunk?
Technically, it's 2 words. I mean, hold door.
Well, yes. At the end of the day, we find out it's 2 words.
Duncan is like has this innocence about him that he just doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything except for what he lived in. That hasn't been a whole hell of a lot of experience. It's interesting to find out who Egg is, if you do a little research, and just a context for everybody, so they're aware. This is in between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, so there are no living dragons. But yeah, so the first about 7-8 minutes, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, and then you get into the story, and I was, by the end, I think I was the first one to finish or the first one to comment about it and finish, and I'm like, that was really good. I can't wait to get home from work next Monday and watch the second episode. But yeah, I think we're good to go here, and I really hope that this series and finishing up House of the Dragon, I'm not sure how many seasons there actually is. It going to be 4? I think.
I think they're 4 and done.
Yeah, I think it's 4
Which is
seasons of
fine.
House of this,
And
and
they
we
kind of
know,
have
and we know,
they kind of have to
yeah,
because it's only like 90 years until this starts, and then it's like another 77 years until Game of Thrones starts, and then the great news is a very like weak rumor we've heard is that they're beginning development on something post Game of Thrones, and we all hope it's whatever's west of Westeros. So
right, yeah, that is the rumor mill that the whole Jon Snow spinoff fiasco and whatever went down with that is now could possibly be morphing into Arya and what's west of Westeros, which is what
that's
we're all
what we
hoping
want.
for.
Yeah.
And we already know that this show has been greenlit for a second season before the first episode even dropped. So, so yeah, they're invested in this, and you could see. And I've told a couple people I've talked to on X and just kind of messaging back and forth. It's like you got to have a little bit of patience with this. This one's not going to be blood and guts, everything in your face. It's going to be much more isolated and localized. And but even when you start seeing the previews for the rest of the season at the end of this episode, you realize pretty quickly that shit's going to get real pretty fast. Things are going to ramp up pretty quick. They're like you're saying, this is between House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, so there are no living dragons as far as we know. That sort of thing. But as to how we get from the end of House of the Dragon to here, we're going to find that
It'll be
out.
interesting to see how they thread the needle between the 3 series. At some point, you have to, and I'm interested. I'm invested. Like I'm ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. I'm one episode in, and let's keep on with the episode and kind of give our thoughts to things. So Dunk, after he buries Arlen, goes and he's on his way to Ashford, I think is the name of the place. So he wants a fresh start. He wants to get into the tournament, the big tournament involving the Knights there at Ashford. He wants to win enough, and enhance his reputation as a hedge knight, which is kind of like, what do they call it in the episode? A sleepy night sort of thing? Is that how they describe a hedge knight? Some of the girls are quiet night or something like that. I don't remember off.
Yeah, I don't remember
head.
exactly
But,
the term they
but
used.
it was something along those lines. But they're the guy who's taking registration talks about the Ashford or the Ashford chair, which is just dreadful. When it's like, yeah, we strip you and it's this jagged point that impales you into your rectum, and we just bob you up and down, and Dunk's just shocked. He goes, "Oh, I'm just fucking with you," that sort of thing. It's like, wow. But the one party he's not messing with him about is like, look, you got to have somebody to vouch for you to prove you're a knight. You're clearly not what we typically consider as far as knight material. So do you have anybody who can vouch for you? And that sends Dunk through this town of Ashford looking for people who could possibly vouch for him. So, Tony, what do you think of it at this point in time? I mean, now we got to know what Dunk's trying to do. He's trying to get somebody. He's trying to get into the tournament. He needs somebody to vouch for him, and we get the introduction of the registrar. I guess you can call him that. And
who's got a
interesting
nasal,
dude.
He's got a nasal problem.
Yeah. Dude, there are so many points.
Spit cup for his nasal problem. Apparently,
you guys have never met my wife in person, but this kind of stuff just makes her skin crawl. Like where Dunk is at the beginning, where he's just shitting. Behind the tree.
Well, it wasn't even like a good solid shit either. It was like a beer shit.
Well, it was it's kind of like, it opens up all serious and kind of hard. It's raining and there's 3 horses. He's burying this guy. It's very kind of like flashbacks to him not having the greatest upbringing. And then all of a sudden he's like ass out, just taking a crap, holding on to the tree without a crap strap. We haven't had Shark Tank yet. They can't buy a crap strap yet. You just have to hold on with one arm. But that innocence follows him when he goes in, and like you said, he's trying to find somebody to, and he just doesn't know what to do. He's so unassuming, so unaware. I got another thing I want to bring up, but I want to wait until we get to that part of the episode because this whole thing was so excellent. But yeah, for me, the main thing is his innocence is following him around, and I assume before too long that innocence will definitely be gone.
Oh yeah, it'll end quicker than you think. Deej, what do you think about Dunk going into town and and being told, yeah, sure, you can compete if somebody will vouch for you. And this sets him off on this interesting
It was
quest.
interesting because you get the impression that he may be lying his ass off a little bit, but he also believes in some. They give you enough dialogue to lead you to believe that he believes his former master was a legitimate knight. And I guess there's apparently somebody either entered in the tournament or there whose father his master used to serve. And he got injured in battle with this particular leader. I don't remember the names because I have a very short-term memory. But yeah, so he believes that that guy may be able to vouch for him. He finds that guy later on, and the guy's an asshole to him, doesn't remember anybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Somewhere along the way, in between this stuff, we meet Egg for the first time, and Egg's this bald-headed child who is going to become super important to this series as we go along. And Egg is, you know, you find him early on with kind of like trying on Dunk's clothing and that sort of thing, pretending he's a knight, dealing with the horses and that sort of thing, and wanting to come along with Dunk. And Dunk's just like having none of it. You know, he's saying, "We'll stay here with your folks." Well, they're not my folks. And so right there, he tells you something that may have flown under the radar, but it is an interesting point moving forward. Is that these are not. This is not where Egg is
Dunk
from.
thinks he's a stable boy originally.
Yeah,
he's appearing as a stable boy, but that's not who Egg really is.
No, not at all.
Should I break? I have exactly the relation for everything. So let's break it down for everybody, right? Egg is King Aegon the Fifth Targaryen, known as Aegon the Unlikely. He will become the Unlikely King. He is Maester Aemon's brother. Okay, from Game of Thrones, that's his brother. He is the great grandfather of Daenerys. He is the great great grandson of Rhaenyra. So that's where we sit. The great great grandson of Rhaenyra and the great grandfather of Daenerys. How old is fucking Maester Aemon, by the way, who lives
right? Because we're
he's
talking
like
200 years,
right? Because he's
And
like this is 90 years beforehand. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's about right. He lived about 100.
yeah, but this little brother, yeah.
Anybody watching this right now screaming at us for spoilers, look, trust me, this will only help you as you move along to get the idea as to who these characters are. And like, because a lot of this stuff you're not going to find out. You know, you're not going to find out ever that Egg is Daenerys's grandfather? Is that what it is? I mean, they're not going to
great grandfather and great great grandson of Rhaenyra, great grandfather of Daenerys. So almost right in the middle.
Right, because they're not going to make that connection in front of your face. They're going to make you research that and do the stuff like Tunney has just done here. But it is important to note that right off the bat, Egg appears, like DJ was saying, he appears as a stable boy just seeking acceptance when there is so much more to him, and to Dunk as well. As we move along, there's a lot more to these characters. What you're seeing in this first episode, your first introduction to these guys, take it in and enjoy it, because things are going to change, and the magnitude of who these people are will become, I'm hoping, will become clearer as we move along, and that this gets brought out and evolved and fleshed out by the showrunners as we go along. But anyway, at the beginning of this, Egg is trying to get into the good graces of Dunk, and Dunk wants nothing to do with it, and he leaves Egg behind, and he throws him a coin, and he says, "I know as soon as I turn around, you'll be scrambling to pick that up." Egg never picks that thing up. If you notice it, he drives away, and Egg just kind of looks at it. It's like, whatever. And of course, if you know where he's really from, that kind of makes a lot more sense, right?
You can toss a coin to your Witcher, but no sense in tossing a coin to an egg.
Wow. Tony, actually bringing in a Witcher reference here for you guys watching at home. That is,
I'm so scarred. I'm just trying to get over it.
Tony's projecting his trauma upon the crowd.
That's not my Becky.
Toss a coin to. Never mind. We're not going to. Let's get back.
That's what you were going to say.
I was thinking about it, but I said, you know what? I'm not going to go there, because this is a different show. So as Dunk is going through this town looking for figures or people who can vouch for him, we get to see some of these ancillary secondary characters. You get to see the two. We'll just call them whores because that's what they are. And they kind of engage with Dunk a little bit. You get to see some more people in camp followers who kind of mock Dunk initially. Then they kind of some of them show some humanity, and then we get this big scene. There's a couple of things that happen. First off, there's a puppet show, right? And this is where we talked about the dragon. There is an actual dragon sighting in here, and it's at this puppet show, which is a puppet dragon, a very large puppet dragon that actually breathes fire, which is very cool. And Dunk is like amazed by this stuff, but he also sees a female on stage who I believe that her name is Tansel, or we will find out that it's Tansel. She is another Westerosi breadcrumb for the future to keep your eyes on as we move forward, but we don't have to get too far into that right now. But Dunk sees her and it's like love at first sight, thunderbolt, all that shit that hear about. You could see it on his face, like he is smitten right off the bat on this thing. And then we get the big scene with Lionel Baratheon, who is just this larger than life dude. And, obviously the Baratheon name, we know this from Game of Thrones. There's no secret as to how big time this family is and their name recognition to the story of Game of Thrones and just kind of, where we end up with the Baratheons. But Lionel is a character and a half. And he immediately kind of takes a liking to Dunk because he's trying to press Dunk as to, why the fuck are you in my tent? And Dunk's just looking around. And he's got a pastry in his hand. He's like, supper. And this immediately disarms Lionel, right? And Lionel then becomes very, it's like, do you dance? And they have this kind of interesting dance off, but they get very hammered. They get really drunk with each other. And they're talking about all sorts of things with each other. And you get this feeling that, this Lionel Baratheon may not be kind of like the pompous prick that some of the other Baratheons that we've met have been. And there might be a little bit more to him than that. So let me go to you first on this one. And the puppet show and then the introduction of Lionel Baratheon as a character and just kind of what'd you think of him? He almost had that, I was looking at it and said, God, this guy could pass for Oscar Isaac almost, that sort of thing. It's not, but he's got that very outgoing personality and eccentric to a fault, but he was really cool.
So a couple of things happen here, right? Like the innocence of Duncan is put on center stage as he's taking in this puppet show and this beautiful woman and these things that he's never even been able to fathom before. Like he couldn't have imagined these things because they weren't even anything he ever had been introduced or told about before, right? And then he gets into the Baratheon tent, and as he interacts with Lionel Baratheon, I feel like this interaction, and I'm going to use a wrestling reference, is if you remember Big Show on Stone Cold Sessions, Broken Skull Sessions, Big Show brings up a moment of a house show when Austin stunned him 14 times in a row and he kept telling him to kick out, and he got pissed, and he made Big Show get pissed off and realize that you're a giant, you control what happens here, even if in that scenario. To the same thing where Lionel's like, why are you slouching? You're tall, be tall. I want to see you be tall. You own it, right? And to the fact where this dance scene is just fucking awesome between these two guys, right? And everything that happens and this weird little bonding moment that they have at the end of the night and things of that nature. And I can't imagine this is the end of the interaction between Lionel and Dunk, but it was just a really cool thing. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so Lionel is the great grandfather of King Robert Baratheon. There you go.
Yep. But not nearly the
a lord at the time.
There's a level of pompousness to him. There's no doubt about that.
The last thing I wanted to say was my last connection. I wanted to make this point, and I'll be done for right now. But Egg and Lionel have this similarity, and they deal with it in different ways. They're both bored. Egg goes off and finds a new adventure and things that interest him and is quiet and learns and just kind of subtly gets his way in. Lionel just blows shit up and goes crazy and goes nuts and laughs and has a good time because he can do it, right? So there's really similarities between the two of them. Like, so we see Duncan starting to lose his innocence, and we see how these born into higher up people can become really bored with having everything given to them.
Yeah, yeah, and we do see like in the like the upcoming stuff, we get to see a big tug of war where Lionel enlists Duncan to be on his team, and of course Duncan's going to make a big difference there because he's the biggest and strongest dude that you can get.
Well,
Deej, your thoughts on
DJ wasn't around at the time. He probably would have been better with them muscles.
I don't know. I'm
might
kind of
have been.
short.
Dunk's a little bigger than Deej, but
Dunk's probably twice as tall as I am. I'm like, I don't know.
But
Very
Duns.
you
You got the beard power.
Hey, man, I have half the brain that you do. Go ahead, DJ.
We're live, pal. No, I like how they're slowly stripping away, like Tony was saying, Dunk's innocence. And I think that's going to be an important part of his journey is watching the character evolve, because right now he's kind of in certain, like he knows what he's capable of, but at the same time, I think he still questions his self-worth. Like he's like, do you really, like, I forget who he asked, but he's like, do you think I stand a chance of winning? And they're like, 0. And, because he has no gear, he has no armor, he has a sword. And he, like I forget the guy's name, the one that spits in the cup. He's like, you're dressed like a farmer. You don't look like a knight. So here we are. So he's questioning whether or not, like, he obviously wants to go in the games and he has his motivation for that, but he's also questioning whether or not he can actually win. And, Lionel's looking at him like without knowing like his real reason why he's there. He's like, you're the biggest dude in here, be the biggest dude in here and own that. So I think the dynamic between the two of them, Lionel is going to help him discover that inner strength that's there, coupled with the outer strength that's visible to everyone.
Yep, exactly. So Dunk goes around. He tries to find someone to vouch for him. I think he finds, what is it? Manfred is the name of the guy who he tries to go to, saying, "Hey, don't you remember that my master Arlen? He's helped people. He took a wound for you." And Manfred's basically like, dude, if I remembered everybody who took a wound for us, I would, I'd be in a lot better shape. But he's too busy. He's hanging out with the two girls, and he leaves them there. So Dunk is dejected, and he goes back to his camp, and he finds Egg there. And Egg has cleaned up things. He's cooking fish. He's got the horses all taken care of. And Dunk lets his guard down and lets Egg in, and he lets Egg stay. And this is where these two guys, characters coming together, is the heart and soul of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It is all about the relationship between Duncan and Egg. That is what, even after episode 1, and yes, we are spoiling some things for you guys, that may or may not happen. I mean, if they follow the source material, they follow the graphic novels, and what Tony and I think, and DJ as well think, is where we're going. And even if they don't, I still believe that this is the core tandem in this series moving forward, is Duncan and Egg. And I love the last scene that they do where they're laying out under the stars and they see a shooting star go overhead. It's a shooting star, it's not a UFO. I'm just going to get that out of the way right now for anybody asking about it. No UAPs here in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms yet. We don't know what will happen afterwards. But anyway, but they watch the shooting star go, and Egg says, you can make a wish on that, right? And Duncan's last thing he says to Egg is kind of drifting off to sleep. It's like, is the wish all ours? That sort of thing. Is it just for us? And Egg just smiles, and that's kind of how, and it kind of, that's how the episode kind of ends with this. You get the feeling, okay, there's an acceptance. Dunk has accepted Egg, and Egg is, like Tony's saying, this is a new adventure for him. This is the adventure he wants to undertake. Whatever reason feels he's gravitated towards Dunk, we're going to get into that later on. So Deej, I'll go to you first. The return of Egg and the bonding between these two guys that you see that becomes so pivotal and critical to where this first season is going to go. Uh, it was pretty cool to watch the kind of the guard come down and Dunk letting somebody into his life, which I think is critical for his development early on, very early on.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was of two thoughts when when I finally got to the end of the episode. I thought the scene was great. I thought the interaction between the two of them was, Dunk finally, okay, this kid has value to me. Let me bring him into the fold and let's see how it goes. I got to the end of this, and like Tony was saying earlier, I agreed with Tony. The first 5 to 7 minutes, I'm like, I don't know about this. When the scene ended and the episode ended, I was like, wait, I was ready for more. And to me, for me personally, that is the sign that this is going to be a good series that I'm invested in, because they just ended it like there was no great battle, there was no great conflict, there was just this heartfelt scene at the very end, and I was literally sitting on my couch going, okay, and then it was over. I'm like, wait, no, 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 I want more, you know. So
Right.
very, very well done, very well done. That scene was.
Tony,
It's
what do you think
funny.
of the? Go ahead.
It's funny because you know, been so programmed with Game of Thrones, obviously, and then House of the Dragon. Like, the story that's being told is has like the entire realm's existence in the balance. And now we just got a kid and a guy that sleeps in the bushes.
Tonally,
It's
it's like
it's different.
almost
It's
a
different.
polar opposite from Game of
Right.
Thrones and House of Dragon. It really is, but it somehow still feels like it fits in that world. And it's not just the aesthetic, the medieval look and everything like that. The overall because they still remind you very much that this is a Game of Thrones series. We have
Yeah.
prostitutes. We have a dude taking a shit in the, with his ass hanging out. We had a couple of nude scenes with Dunk taking a bath in the river. There was a lot of cursing, a lot of wine drinking, and a lot of debauchery. So they're reminding you this exists in the Game of Thrones world while having just a bit more levity than the other two shows did.
Yeah, it's just a little bit subtle, more subtle reminder of how life kind of was back then. But the funny part is, it's like we're dealing with a king, you know. So I'm here. I can't wait. I'm like I said, I can't wait to watch next Monday. It's with 6 episodes, right? Just 6 weeks getting us into this thing. I'm pretty sure it's only six
Is it
episodes.
6 or 8? I gotta look that up.
Um,
Um,
so, but yeah, it just really well done. The first episode.
well, I'm sure you're gonna look it up. So I will move on while Tony's efforting this whole thing to see
I'm
what's
almost
going on. But
positive
yeah,
it's six.
He's a hell of
it's
an
either
intern,
6 or
man.
8. He is intern
Six.
Tony. He is. Is it 6? Okay, it's only 6. That's okay. 6 weeks. That's a sweet spot.
I
6, 8.
I
I'm
I
cool with that.
I hold both the highest and lowest positions of the chair shot.
He's the intern and the boss. How did that work out?
Yeah, yeah. That's like it's like undercover in reverse sort of situation, but
He's undercover
Overcover
boss,
boss.
is what he is.
Overcover boss.
overcover boss. There you go. But no, like I love what DJ said because it does it doesn't have these massive set pieces, right? Like Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon did. We're talking about an isolated place. We're in one town. We're staying in one character. The thing about Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is it jumps from character point of view and perspective so much, right? It just bounces from everywhere. And this is very isolated and focused on just one character, which maybe that's what made it feel a little bit different for a lot of people is that I wasn't it's to me it's like, well, it's kind of easier that way to just like worry about two characters at a time than 10. So that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a different feel to a series. There's more humanity to this right off the bat than you get in Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon because you're dealing with, we're not dealing with royalty, at least not yet, as far as we know. We're dealing with normal people, just kind of the average folk living in this world of Westeros, and we get to see how it relates and how it impacts somebody on a ground level. We talk about with the MCU all the time, cosmic versus street level, right? Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, very cosmic esque. You know what I mean? This
Right.
is more street level. This is like Daredevil. This is like Spider-Man sort of stuff going on, and we're getting to see a more grounded character that we can get behind, and honestly, somebody who's probably more relatable for a lot of people as well, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
I would agree with
nobody
that.
owns their own castle. The problem with Duncan is he's so damn tall. Not a lot of
Yeah.
people are that tall, but you talk about it's just a more common. It's it's more of the everyday happenings of that world as opposed to, like you said, dealing with the highest of the most royal. Like, yeah, like, okay, you said Marvel. We have street level and we have cosmic. So in Game of Thrones series, we have like civilians and royalty, right?
Yep. Yep. And like little things they did in this first episode, like Dunk always bashing his head into low ceilings or low doorways. They took that straight from the graphic novel, and there were he does that in the graphic novel as well, which is a really nice touch and an homage to what's going on. So like over before we kind of like move into like what may be happening next. Overall thoughts on the episode as a whole. I love the first episode. Thought it was great. I'm with you guys. It started off a little bit like, okay, what's going on here? But it does a really quick course correction, and it gets right to the meat of things that are going on. And they did a great job setting up the relationship between the two main characters, which are Dunk and Egg. And you can already see that, okay, I'm going to like these two together, and they're going to bond very quickly. So, Deej, I'll go to you first. Your overall thoughts on this first episode?
I thought it was a great introductory episode. Like I said a minute ago, I wasn't sure in the first 5 to 7 minutes, but the last 20, I was roped in, and it's going to be a good show. It was very well done, very well produced, very well acted, very well cast. So yeah, I think we're in for a good ride. I'm almost sad it's only going to be six episodes.
Well, you get House of the Dragon before you know it. So,
Yeah.
Tuddy, your overall thoughts on this first episode?
Don't worry, DJ. We got Wonder Man, Daredevil Born Again, Invincible, and The Boys all coming up in the next 3 months. So it's
Let me put that on
insane
the
right
list
now.
of shit I
For
need to catch up and
Yeah.
watch.
for
I probably should
more
watch the first
information,
3 seasons of Invincible.
yeah.
You know
For
what?
more
Save it.
information
Then
on that,
someday down the road,
tune
you'll have
in.
that gem for
Yeah,
yourself.
DJ, just tune into Bandwagon Nerds coming up the rest of this year, where it basically is going to be a lot of shit going on. But sorry, go ahead, Tony.
I I loved it. Like I said, I was like, honestly, I was almost about ready to message you guys in the first like 4 minutes. Like, what the fuck is this shit? Uh, but knowing who Egg is, this story isn't a part of the books, and I don't. Okay, so I know nothing outside of having watched House of the Dragon, all of Game of Thrones 4 times now, and this first episode. I don't know, and just the little side stuff that I've researched, and I've already told you about that. I've read none of the graphic novels. I don't know anything about how those go. I really don't care that George R. R. Martin is mad at the showrunners of how. I don't give a shit. I don't
Hold
fucking
on,
care.
hold on. Let me say it for DJ. He knows what I'm going to say. Finish the fucking book.
Yeah, if
You
you want
said
to
the
bitch,
thing.
Then you
right
can
now, said the
bitch at
thing.
anybody. You
George R.
can't
R.
bitch at
Martin.
anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin bitching right now about those people doing House of the Dragon is like someone bitching about the last election that didn't fucking vote. If you don't vote, you don't get the fucking bitch. That's the way, that's the fucking rule. Okay? But you would have to think that Duncan plays a gigantic role in the development and story of who Egg is, and more importantly, becomes.
Yeah, and how that translates into what Danny is and what. Now, if Egg is Targaryen, the question that comes to mind is, of
Well,
course,
he's the
since we just did,
grandfather. He's the grandfather of the Mad
but
King.
he's got Targaryen blood, which of course goes back to the end of Game Gone Wrong. Does he have that fucking sickness, that
That
madness
crazy gene.
to him? That where he's just gonna go batshit crazy at some point in time and screw up everything. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think we get that, but it's there. That genetic marker has to come from somewhere. Whether it skipped a generation with egg or not, we're gonna find out. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I love the first episode. Thought they really captured so much of the essence of what is in the graphic novels. And I think let's kind of look forward a little bit from here. So, you know, Dunk's all future is all about, you know, him, whatever Dunk is, whatever he's been knighted, all that stuff is fine and great, but if no one will vouch for you and say who you are, then none of it really matters. And that's really the conundrum that he's going to find himself in right now, is trying to prove himself is one thing. Trying to get anybody to step up for him and say, yeah, this guy, he's all right, is really going to be kind of the quest that I think he goes on with moving forward, because you get to see in the previews in the upcoming episodes this big conflict revolving around the tournament and this person called the Dragon, right? There's no dragons, but there is somebody called the Dragon, right, Tony? I think we got to see the guy with the mask who he's fighting a lot is called the Dragon. So this is going to be a show that, like I said, it's going to be down on the ground level. It's going to be gritty. It's going to be muddy. It's going to be bloody. You get to see them fighting in the mud and all this kind of stuff. So it's going to be just in your face and very visceral in a lot of ways. You know, no one's going to be sitting in a throne room with chess pieces, you know, moving pieces across Westeros and that sort of thing. This is going to be very localized and isolated. And, you know, Lionel Baratheon has got to obviously be the main character. And of course, this character who the Dragon is. And the statement that Dunk makes at the end is the luck isn't ours alone, you know, and I think that's going to become a big selling point moving forward without giving too much away that's in the graphic novels. But Deej, what do you know, I'm sure you watched the post-credit stuff and kind of got an idea as to, okay, where are we going with this? So where do you think we go with the rest of this as we move forward from here?
I think this is slowly building up to the tournament, which is what I'm hoping. You know, I'm hoping, because if we're planning on expanding this past, 2 to 3 seasons, then I'm okay with this being a slow burn, at least for the first season. You know, establish the localized world. We already have Westeros as a land established, but again, like you said, these street level areas. Let's establish the more localized areas and see what happens here. So if they spend the next 5 episodes just building up to the tournament, I'm okay with that, and I kind of hope that's what they do here. You know, bring in the characters, let us know who these characters are, let us see how they interact, and give me a reason to care about them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, as well, before I turn it over to Tony, Duncan, you get the feeling early on that his whole, he's trying to do the right thing, or what he thinks is the right thing. And at some point in time, he's going to be faced with that conflict as, if you're going to be a knight and not just a hedge knight, your sense of morality and what's right may conflict with trying to get somebody to recognize your status as far as like who you say you are. And I think that balancing act is okay in the first episode, but I think as we get closer to like episode 4 or 5, there's going to be some conflict there internally for Dunk that he's going to have to deal with. And I have a feeling that Egg is kind of going to be, even though Egg is the one who's, he's descended from royalty, as we'll find out, he's going to end up being Dunk's moral compass a lot along the way here as we move forward. That's my thought. What do you think, Tony?
So Grok doesn't think that that knight is called the Dragon. I can tell you who that knight is with the sigil of a dragon.
Yeah. Who is that?
That's Aerion Targaryen. Aerion Targaryen. So it's a Targaryen.
It's another one. Maybe he's the crazy one.
Well, that's interesting too, though, to find that out. And how much do the Targaryens know of Egg's whereabouts and happenings right now? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, do we see Egg like hiding himself more in plain view, like when he becomes around other Targaryens and things of that nature? But I don't know. I think DJ has a great point. Like, is this whole build up to the tournament is the last episode, or is that the penultimate episode? Do we have the tournament throughout episodes 3, 4, 5? And I don't know that we're going to get to the tournament next episode already, but you would think that something like that is got to take the rest of the season. It's only 6 episodes, so I would think this brief season is setting up for a larger story in season 2. That's why it already got greenlit, and I would bet dollars to donuts that season's probably 8 episodes.
Yeah, I think like this season will probably end with the conclusion of the tournament and Dunk standing tall, that sort of thing, or whatever.
Or like
However they're going to spin it.
Wins, and then there's some tragic thing that happens and makes you want to tune
They're
in
going to
next season.
Yeah, right. They'll either leave it on
know.
they'll leave it on some sort of cliffhanger. But whether it's
like
going
the
to
guy
be
who plays
what
Duncan
happens,
won't come back next year. They're going to bring in Liam Hemsworth to play Duncan.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I don't wish that on the world.
My Lord, this scarring is
deep. Not my Becky.
He's traumatized.
The hurt is real. It wasn't Liam's fault that his character was written so shittily, Tuddy. We've already talked about this. Listen to Bandwagon.
You think they'll
nerds,
bring in
guys.
Lawrence Fishburne next year to play a vampire?
No. And then we get to come up with a new title for Morpheus for 8 weeks in a row. Thank you, Patrick.
Cowboy Curtis Morpheus.
God damn it. For anybody for you guys listening or watching along at home, there's a lot of scarring. Tunney was hurt. He was hurt by The Witcher. A lot of you people out there were hurt by The Witcher.
I've been hurt by a couple things. So the problem is with me is I've specifically introduced 2 series to the Bandwagon Nerds. 1 being Lock and Key, 2 being The Witcher. Both phenomenal first seasons, like amazingly awesome. And we're all sitting here going, let's Tunney, way to go. Hey. And then we get to where we're at now, and I'm just the asshole.
You can stretch that out to say phenomenal first 2 seasons. All right, the first 2 seasons of both shows were excellent. The 3rd season of Lock and Key goes way off the rails, horrible. And the 3rd season of Witcher, it's all right, but this 4th season
wasn't too bad.
Wasn't too good either, but
no, compared to the first 2 seasons, absolutely not. This is one I'm actually somewhat caught up on.
This is the one you picked, huh, Deej? I'm gonna tell you to switch gears, buddy. But DJ and we're done with Alien Earth, and Patrick keeps finding excuses not to watch it. No one cares. All right,
he's depriving himself, man.
He is. Look, guys, that's gonna do it for this first episode of the relaunch of Game Gone Wrong, where we will be looking at A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. After 1 episode, certainly this is not going wrong at all. This is going very right. 2 thumbs up. No problem so far with anything happening with this new show. I do urge anybody, if you're on the fence, you're not sure about it, give this some time to gestate, okay? Watch it, give it some time. It will ramp up. It will start to resemble more of some of the Game of Thrones-esque sort of things that you're used to. But like I said, I would caution anybody, this is not going to be a Song of Fire and Ice. If you're looking for that, and I think Patrick even said that on one of his posts this week, if you're looking for a Song of Fire and Ice, this is probably not going to be that. I do adamantly maintain this is going to be much more street level. It'll be much more grounded. It will be singularly focused on 2 characters. Well, that doesn't make any sense, right? Singularly focused on 2 characters. No, it will be focused on 2 characters.
It will have a singular focus of duality concerning 2 characters.
It's Viet Cong. It's already plural. You wouldn't say Chinese's. So, that sort of thing. Look, yeah. Tropic Thunder, DJ. You've seen Tropic Thunder. Please tell me you've seen Tropic Thunder.
I'm playing a guy who's playing a guy who's playing another guy.
I'm playing a dude who's pretending to be a dude playing another dude. What dude are you? All right.
I have not seen Tropic Thunder. I will out myself. I have not seen Tropic Thunder.
Okay.
What?
Hey.
We got a new project. DJ watching Tropic Thunder.
Hey, Judy. Baby, I got your money. Don't you worry. Say hey. You gotta watch that shit, brother.
Yeah.
I'll see. I have this thing with Ben Stiller. I know it's a sum of its parts type movie, and it's not about Ben Stiller. But you put Ben Stiller in the cast, and I'm already got a foot out the door.
Hey, drink some booty sweat, baby. Some booty sweat.
We're not asking you to watch Night at the Museum 3, okay? Just watch this fucking movie.
Yes, please.
All right.
I beg you, DJ. All right. But yeah, so that's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be focused on these two characters, the relation between them, and Dunk's quest for not just acceptance but for knighthood on a more official basis. But that we'll see what happens. We'll be back next week to talk more about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms or whatever episode 2 is. Before we get out of here, DJ, let people know where can they check you out on social media if they want beard tips, if they want to get buff after 50, or if they just want to check out you've got quite a few podcasts going on right now.
I've got a couple things on the fire now. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at The Mindless Pod. You can catch me every weekend on the Mindless Wrestling Podcast with Jason and Rob as we talk all things WWE and pro wrestling. I also have my own solo project, new topic, new guest every week, 30 Mindless Minutes. I've got a new episode of each one of those coming out between the weekend and the beginning of next week. Tony, I'll get those over to you tomorrow.
PC Tunney, the man of the overcover boss of thechairshot.com, space jamming it out. Overcover boss. I love it.
Overcover boss should wear overalls, I think. No shirt either. Then I can pull the nipples out whenever I want. PC Tunney. Check out attitudeofaggression.com, thechairshot.com, Chairshot Radio Network. On all your favorite streaming platforms. I've been drinking.
That's right. I will.
It's cold.
It's all right. Yeah, it's like minus 16 degrees where you're at. No, you could. Not yet, but it's getting there. You can check me out. Like Tony said, go to the website attitudeofaggression.com. I did update the Game Gone Wrong page to kind of
it's balmy 11 degrees right now.
Fuck that. I did update the Game Gone Wrong page so that you guys can go and check out and see what the new vision for the project is going to be. You can follow me on X at AttitudeAg. That is where I am most active. Yes, there is some stuff coming from Unidentified History. Probably going to do that right after I get done with these fine gentlemen here today. And of course, the website, the YouTube channel. You can go follow TikTok. It's at DavidUnger68. You can go see the shorts there. But tune into all things going on at the Chair Shot, at all things Attitude of Aggression. Lots of stuff happening. I'm thrilled that Game Gone Wrong has come back. I did come up with my own music for the intro for this song.
You're getting sued.
Nobody can claim.
You're getting sued.
Somebody's going to claim they did it, and I did it myself. I did it myself, but
Dave, we got to plug one more thing because we've been getting a lot of viewers live on Bandwagon Nerds for Battle Royal Madness and everything we've been doing there. So thank you to everybody that's been watching us do Bandwagon Nerds. This weekend, Bandwagon Nerds will be live on X, Attitude Ag, X count, likely at about 2:30 Eastern, right? That's what we're looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there or 3. We're going to do Four Corners first. We're going to preview the conference championship games and talk about Indiana's near disaster, but they pulled it out. And then, Bandwagon Nerds live again this week.
On a Saturday, but usually Sundays, just giving you a heads up this week.
I think this week, Tony, we might have to show a couple of trailers actually in the broadcast because there's been some big ones. Today was like, where are all these fucking trailers coming from? But man, there's some big ones today. I threw a couple
extras in there just an hour ago too. So
it's like, wait, we got He-Man, Star Wars, and Invincible on the same day. What is going on here?
Well, we also have a Steph Curry animation project coming too.
Oh God, it's too much stuff happening. But look, I'm going to let everybody go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here for this edition of Game Gone Wrong. We will be back. We will be back next week to talk about the second episode and to let you know what we think. Did the game gone wrong? Does Bugs agree that Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is doing very well? We will see. But until next week, you guys, hang in there. Don't gut anybody. Stay away from the Ashford chair. Right, DJ? You want to stay away from the Ashford chair. That's not a good time, right?
No, it's a pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the Ashford.
See what he did there. On that note, that is the perfect way to get out of here. You guys take care. We will see you next week for more Game Gone Wrong.